Hey everyone, I'm Cecil Laird.
You got Jaime Fuego here.
And this is your Horror Show News Editorial Edition, which you can catch right here every single Friday, where we talk about your hottest horror news stories of the week. And of course, you can catch us delivering the stories in proper, a la the typical news fashion, over at Kings of Horror, which is youtube.com/TheKingsOfHorror. Go ahead and check us be all professional-like while we deliver them, and then come back here and watch us do the editorializing when we get a little looser. We loosen the ties, we get a little relaxed, we chill a little bit, and we talk about each other's opinions on this week's stories. And the first one that I really want to know Fuego's opinion on is the fact that we got finally a Death House trailer this week, which we actually watched before we did this so we could talk fully informed.
And yeah, we talked a lot about it on our trailer reaction, which you can also see here on the channel. And to just revert to some of those opinions, I was a little underwhelmed, especially with the scope of all the horror icons involved in this. Kane Hodder, Tony Todd, who else? Bill Moseley, Sid Haig, Dee Wallace. I love you, Dee.
Yeah.
So happy.
But unfortunately, it was. I think we described it as an uneven trailer.
Yeah.
There were parts that were interesting. I think the fact that they're sort of having Kane Hodder do a heel turn, or rather a face turn.
Yes, if we're going to go in the wrestling terminology.
Yes, technically.
He looks like he could be a wrestler.
He looks like he's a bad guy, but he also appears to be sort of our main character's only way to safely make it through the 9 levels of hell, as it were,
Seemingly,
or the Area 51 of horror.
An opportunistic alliance, I'm assuming, is what's going to transpire. But yeah, it was beautifully shot, and I thought some of the set design was cool, but yet it was also very black and white in some ways.
Well, and it was too dark
at
a lot of points, too. The darkness overwhelmed the visuals. You couldn't really see what was going on. It was too muddy.
Some of the action that we wanted to see more clearly, we're like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
I can't really see too well. And then, the scenes of the actual facility were very bright and shiny and almost sterile to a degree.
Too sterile, and that's the problem. Sterility often equates with boring when it comes to set design.
And with lack of children.
Yeah, and that seems... Well, that's true. It seems a little too kind of plain as a set design for those particular scenes, but I still am hopeful. Again, it just might be not a great trailer. Maybe they were forced to put the trailer out. They have a release date of early 2017, so that could technically mean January. That could mean all the way up to April.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a 4-month window there, and that amount of time can determine how much post-production work they feel is actually worth it for this film, and I hope
necessary to save it. Who knows?
Exactly. Yeah, that might be another way to put it.
Yeah, and if they're gonna have any children, like 6 of them, like they're saying, this is gonna be a huge series of films.
Yeah, they
want
to make this a big grand series.
Less sterile, man. Less sterile.
Yeah.
But hey, there's groundwork for lots of coolness here. So I'm, as I said during the trailer reaction, the jury is out on this one. We don't know just yet. And hey, we've seen bad trailers for good films, so I'm not gonna judge.
I'm not going to judge yet, but I tell you one thing I am going to judge, and that is with nothing but positivity, and that is the fact that we are officially getting a Stranger Things second season, right?
Yes, officially. There was so much speculation. They're like, how could something so successful, especially on Netflix?
It took so long for them to announce that they were going to do a sequel series.
I'm sure they were bumping pay on certain people, perhaps, and
you
trying
think
to get all that stuff worked out.
They're like, listen, we're happy to do it,
but you
Netflix.
better fork out some Skrilla, guys.
Man, that series took this world by storm. It was phenomenal. It was an 80s throwback. I can't wait to watch it again.
I don't even like calling it
throwback. I actually would easily buy the Blu-ray for that. That is worthwhile to have for people like you and me, where it put us exactly back in our childhoods. I mean, we are... well, me probably a little bit more so than you,
youngin. He's
got
a few years on me.
Yeah, not a few.
Yeah, as you like to constantly scold me about.
He's
like,
23,
listen
I'm
here,
26.
Young man,
So that's, that's kind of how it works.
Hey, I think we're aging gracefully.
Yeah, so far so good. But I'm excited as hell for Stranger Things Season 2. I mean, it
an
was a
extra
foregone conclusion. Oh yeah, 9 episodes instead of 8. That's exciting.
Which is cool, and it's weird because they gave us all these cryptic titles like the Pollywog and the abandoned cabin
kind of thing, yeah.
One episode is called Mad Max, which is really a little weird. The first episode, in fact.
Well, but it's exciting because they announced that it's not an anthology series,
Which
right?
I have seen so many people arguing about why it should. I
No.
completely
Disagree.
100%.
They introduced us to characters we care about, and
they
one
left so much unanswered too at the end.
And I actually agree wholeheartedly. Something that stuck with me since I think you read it out loud was Stephen King. Maybe it was Stephen King's reaction to it. But someone, if it wasn't him, forgive me that I'm attributing this incorrectly, but someone stated that the reason that Stranger Things worked so well is because every character was likable in some fashion. Even Steve, who ended up having to do a turn.
Yeah, I think
it might not have been. It might have just been. Yeah, we might have been a mishmash talking because King, I know, reviewed it and loved it, and it might have just been the same conversation. So I'm misattributing.
Well, his handprints are all over that series.
Well, exactly. So I'm not entirely misattributing, but I agree. Every character was great, and that's why you had a vested interest in the series. So I'm super psyched for a sequel.
Everyone who stuck around, at least, and yet even though they're confirming most of the cast is coming back, it leads you to believe whether it be a Matthew Modine return. Is 11 going to come back?
No, they mentioned that Matthew Modine's character will be. They said they mentioned not that he would be back specifically. They mentioned that we did not see his demise on camera.
Interesting.
And they're like, in typical 80s movie fashion, that means that the window is open for him to come back.
Well,
they did mention that. The brothers mentioned that.
Well, even if it's in like a flashback or something like that, is they're giving more backstory to that energy committee, whatever the hell that they were. I just want more 11, man, and that is the one character that they said she's still up in the air. So even though they left her, I mean, it looked like she was done, but then there was like the little tip at the end, little clue that maybe that wasn't the case. I don't know. The most thing that I'm excited about, though, is the fact that they're saying Cameron. James Cameron is their biggest influence going into this. Duffer Brothers are like, our biggest favorite sequels are like stuff like Raiders of the Lost Ark's sequel Temple of Doom, but even more so Aliens and T2, and the way that they just went for bigger, louder, darker, bigger set pieces, more violent, crazier.
Awesome.
And if they're going to take that approach with this,
I'm so excited
man.
Now. I mean, the series was practically made for us, and to know that that's the tack they're going to take with the sequel makes me even more excited. Now,
I love Jimmy C.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is another sequel we need to talk about, and that is the Behind the Mask sequel. Now, Fuego, did you ever actually get around to seeing?
I watched your review when I was still a fan of the show, and I was like, please let me try out, guys. Let me be a part of the team. And so that was one that it was kind of like a comedy.
And he made it.
I did, somehow, some way. Although I push this guy's buttons all the time where he's like, I don't know, Fuego, you might get
pushing
fired.
buttons, bro. Not pushing buttons. Difference of opinions. That works on these shows, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I do remember watching the review you guys did, and it was basically...
Loved it.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a comedic faux documentary type
It
thing
was
almost.
it was literally a deconstruct. Well, not literally. I hate when people misuse that word, so forgive me. But
literally,
it might appropriately describe this, but it was a deconstruction of your typical horror movie. From the aspect was it was basically a documentary crew following around a guy that claimed to be a slasher, and so they're following him, and he's like, there's scenes where he's like, training outside. He's hitting the heavy bag, and he's like. He's like, cardio, and this was way pre-Zombieland. He's like, cardio is like one of the most important things as a slasher you can have because, you have to catch up to your victims by walking, and they're running, and you have to make it look like you're not running. And so it's this awesome deconstruction, and then there's a shift at some point in the movie that I don't want to give away that goes sort of from shockumentary to...
I like your term.
To a more typical film involving all the characters we've been introduced to over the first half of the film. And it was just a really brilliant movie. And
You're not the only one that I know that has said that too.
So
Outside
great.
of our circle of people that I know that love this type of genre filmmaking and love comedy horror and things like that, they're like, when is this sequel going to come? Please bring it. And yet all these years later, finally happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't be frankly more excited about it. And the actor, Nate Basil, I didn't even realize, or Nathan Basil, I'm not sure if he likes to be called Nate or not, sorry, sir. But he was tremendous in the film, and the fact that he's excited about it, and he's the one sort of leaking that the sequel's closer than ever, or it's a prequel, as it were, because the first one was called Behind the Mask. This one is called Before the Mask.
I'm suddenly thinking of the Alice Cooper song, The Man Behind the Mask.
Although it'd be interesting for them to film a prequel, considering it's over or about a decade later at this point. It's really a decade on the nose, because I think it was 2006, if I recall. But
that was one I always saw in stores at like Walmart in the bargain bin, and I was like, what is
so
this?
Good. So unknown for some reason. It's just an amazing movie. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. Check out our review as well, because it's worthwhile. It is a tremendous movie, and I'm excited about the sequel.
Yeah, and speaking of unknown, when I mentioned the name Tom Holland to you, sir, you were like, oh,
Spider-Man,
Spider-Man, right? Well, apparently that's a major misconception happening because the OG Tom Holland that I know, he has a resume that is legit. One of your favorite films of all time. He wrote and directed Child's Play.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he also wrote and directed...
Wait, what about Don Mancini? How was he involved?
I'm not sure.
He created Chucky.
Well, maybe he just created the doll itself, but the writer and director of Child's Play and Fright Night. And then he went on to direct the Langoliers miniseries. He wrote and directed Thinner, the adaptation of the Stephen King novel. He also did 3 episodes of Tales from the Crypt. He did a Masters of Horror. I mean, his resume is legit. He wrote the second Psycho movie, but he's been in hiding for like the last decade or so. Actually, no, like 20 years now. What am I saying? Like 2 decades. Hasn't done anything, and now he's finally going to return with this movie, Rock, Paper, Dead. I'm not sure. It's a very strange title, especially being about a serial killer who essentially goes to some sort of reformatorium, I'm guessing a mental institution, and he comes out allegedly okay now, fit to return to society, goes to his childhood home, and encounters memories of prior victims, and then meets a new woman, and the urges return, but it's got Michael Madsen in it, who I love in pretty much anything he's in, whether it's Species, Sin City, or Kill Bill. I mean, the guy's resume is legit. I'm not too familiar with this sci-fi series Killjoys that
I'm not either,
yeah,
no.
that this Luke McFarlane guy who actually plays the lead in it is from, but you've got all these other little cameos from like the original Jason guy. Ari Lehman, I think is his name. He's popping in all kinds of weird stuff lately, even though he was in like 2 minutes of that original film. So he's milking it a little bit, but I guess you can't blame the guy. We see him at so many conventions and he seems pretty cool. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm interested. Yeah.
As am I. I mean, hey, it could totally suck. Some of these directors, when they take tons of time off, they return not quite up to par. But I think his resume speaks for itself, and so I'll at least give it a try based on that.
Yeah, I will too.
Yes.
I will too, for sure.
That's the Tom Holland you guys need to know about, man. I'm telling you.
Good luck getting the other one out of the popular culture, because that's not going to happen anytime soon.
No, because he was a pretty rad Spider-Man. I will give him that.
He was
Tom Holland
indeed.
96, as he is on Twitter. So
now, I tell you what, another thing that's not going to get out of the mind of pop culture anytime soon is The Walking Dead, and now we are getting a 3rd season of The Walking Dead video game. The first 2 seasons centered around the main character Clementine as she was a little girl, and now Clementine is a teenager, and actually we're going to be able to control... We controlled her and Lee in the first season. I believe the main character's name was Lee.
Now,
I did not play the second season.
Is she a character from the comic
No,
books?
no,
or
she
from
is
the
a new
novels,
character.
or completely
Completely
created
new
for the
character
games? Okay.
created for the games. It's a completely separate storyline.
So what kind of games are they?
They're basically story-based games where you...
Like a point-and-click type thing?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly right. Characters will say stuff to you, and you can make choices on what you say back, and then you can, when zombies attack, you can choose sort of which character you go to save. Like, there are life and death decisions, and it's a really cool game. So
it's like a video game choose your own adventure, like those old books
It
where
is.
you skip to a certain page.
it is,
or whatever, and
except,
that's kinda cool.
once you've made your choice, you've made your choice, and you got to live with it.
Yep, that's
which
your
is
grave.
tough.
Your grave has been dug, and
It's
you have
tough.
to bury yourself.
And it's interesting because the reason I said in the main news delivery that you're going to get scared because there are jump scares, and then you're also going to cry because you're going to cry in that game.
You get connected with
I
the
cried in
characters, right?
in the final episode of the first season, for sure. And most people did. PewDiePie's got a video where he did. Angry Joe did it in his. Like, everyone cries in this show. Like,
Did that angry guy shed a tear?
he did. Oh, it's
Wow.
happened. It's happened. It happened in The Last of Us also. There's some really
Interesting.
solid games, and this was
I was thinking
an
this would-
emotional ride.
I was thinking this would be more along the lines of like A Last of Us or like a survival horror type game. So that's
Not quite.
interesting.
No,
that
no,
it's
it's
just
point
a
and click. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Very story driven.
It is. But, it's interesting for people like you and me because if you were raised in a point where you played the more point-and-click adventures of the 90s,
They were
like
computer
Phantasmagoria
games.
or The Seventh Guest, it's a
Oh,
very
Seventh
similar
Guest
feel.
was good. Did you
Yeah.
ever play a game on Saturn? I think it was on PlayStation as well. It was called D.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember.
good.
Sure,
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is an interesting game, and I'm excited for the 3rd season. I believe in Telltale. They just started releasing the Batman series of Telltale games, which they upped the resolution, so there's not, apparently there's not jittery actions like there has been sort of this whole time. It's kind of sort of just accepted that Telltale has a little bit of a glitchy motion system, but
Is that a
I
VR
wonder
game,
if since
or
they
is that-
it's a typical regular console game,
Okay.
and I'm hoping that if they fixed it for the Batman game, the Walking Dead games going forward won't be glitchy either.
Follow
but
suit.
we'll see.
Yeah, interesting. Is that the one Marsha Parker played, our
Yeah.
co-host?
Well, no, she played Michonne. She played the
okay.
first part of Michonne, which was a different Walking Dead offshoot dealing with a character from the comics and the show.
The series is so big now between novels, comic books, TV series, and the empire just keeps growing. So that That is pretty cool. Now, speaking of an empire I want to see return to prominence and grow again because it's a cool series, Tremors, and I think it has potential to really up its, perception, so to speak, with Kevin Bacon returning to the series.
Yeah, I'm excited as hell for that because, frankly, Tremors is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and the fact that while Bacon had a problem with it at first, the fact that he's got sort of a renewed vigor for the property,
it's some
exciting.
Perspective on his career as a whole at this point.
I think
he's doing movies like The Darkness and stuff like that now.
Well, but he also just came off of The Following, which was a really successful TV show. You know, even though it only lasted 3 or 4 seasons, people really liked it, and he did a great job in it. So I'm excited to see what can happen when Val has to go up against the Graboids once again.
Yeah, and I'm especially excited that it's moving from network television to Amazon, where I feel like they can have some more freedoms potentially with gore, language, stuff like that. I mean, hey, the Hulus, the Netflix, these are the new form that, people are going to for creativity, and I think it's awesome.
I just hope that it's not a situation where it's one of the Amazon pilots. Right, because Amazon will put down a pilot of like 3 shows.
Don't they do that? And they're like, pick one. And that's the one
whoever gets the most is the one they let continue to series.
And Zombieland didn't go to series.
I do have a feeling that Tremors would win because it's got enough of a cult following. But I guess it kind of depends on what it's ultimately up against. But I'm excited, and I have faith in a Kevin Bacon-led Tremors series.
Absolutely, and I've always had fun with the series, even though the only thing I've not watched is the TV series that was on Sci-Fi, right? The one that you lent me, and I still haven't gotten around to watching, but all the movies were a ton of fun, including the 5th one that just came out.
I agree.
Yeah, it was a blast. I liked it.
More Graboids, please.
And please, practical Graboids compared to all the CGI that we saw in that 5th one. It was one of our few complaints.
They were okay looking, cool, but they still just aren't as menacing when you can't touch them. And that's, I think, a thing that Bacon liked. He liked that it was a bit funny while also being really scary and practical. So
and still one of the funniest FUs in all of movie making, I think, in that original movie where they kill the first Graboid and he's just like just getting right in the face of the Graboid. Oh, so good,
with
man.
a big laugh afterwards. Yeah,
and I would hope some of the other characters come along too, like Bert, whatever they
Bert Gummer.
Yeah, and also Fred Willard.
Fred Willard needs to come back, and they also, frankly, they need to
bring back
tell us what
happened.
No, tell us what. Well, because she left Bert a long time ago.
Divorced. Yeah, you find out.
But no, we need to find out what happened to Rhonda. Because Val went off with Rhonda at the end of the movie. So
I would imagine they didn't end up together. Maybe they spent some years and.
Well, no, he mentioned in the sequel. Fred Willard's character mentions that Val is happily married with the seismologist Rhonda off somewhere.
Bring her back. She was a babe.
Yeah, I think so too. So I think that's going to pretty much cover this week's news editorials right here at the Horror Show.
Yeah.
Make sure you come back every single Friday and watch us talk about the news stories. And head over to, again, every Friday at youtube.com/thekingsofhorror to watch us deliver the stories in proper. And you'll be able to watch us have some fun every single Friday along with you. Now,
so even if you watch this one first, you can still jump over and see, because we don't rehash every bit of it, on that. It's like a different approach and different insight and perspective, getting back to that work.
Exactly. And hit us up in the comments below if you're excited for any of the things we're excited about from this week. We want to get that discussion going, and let's chat about it, guys. So thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias. I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And until next time, remember, stay scared.